twist and turn my mind.
Alright, we've got some views. People are watching it. We are live. Let's just introduce ourselves to the audience if they don't know. I'm Pedro.
And I am Johnny C. Familiar voices at least now, but this is what we look like. So the visual medium is now there for you to see, guys. We're real people. And here I am with the king in the background. So, you know, like we live it, we breathe it, don't we, Pete? That hasn't just been put up. It's been there a while.
It's been there the whole 3 weeks. I don't have any Arsenal memorabilia anywhere, but I've got the ability to zoom in on the cameras like that. Look at that magic! Right, okay. So let's start the live record of the podcast in 3, 2, 1. Good morning and welcome to a new edition of the Arsenal Opinion Podcast. This time around, it's a little bit special because we're doing this live on Twitch. Johnny, explain to the people what Twitch is.
Twitch is, I mean, some people are thinking someone's having a kind of fit in the corner. No, people, get with the times. Twitch is a new media platform where you can stream yourself, live streaming. So we were kind of thinking, do you know what? There are people that like to listen to our voices, but don't we look damn good doing it? You know, we've got to give the people some visuals as well. So we thought we'll take it to the online streaming community so people can watch and get in. We're obviously all about trying to build that community as well, because lots of you guys have really interesting points to come out with and share on Arsenal and around our discussions. So why not join us on Twitch if you haven't this week and you're listening on the podcast right now? Join us in a new generation, a new era.
Yeah, someone called us a pogger yesterday, and apparently that's something good to do with Twitch. So hopefully we live up. Hopefully we live up to the expectations. We've got a packed show today. This is an Arsenal opinion transfer special. Johnny is not a recovering addict. You're just a full-on addict, like I am. We love the transfer rumours. There's loads to get through today, and I've got an amazing Chiron that's going to switch over. First subject is a touchy one that we're going to jump in on. Emile Smith Rowe, Aston Villa, apparently revving up a third bid for the 20-year-old. Johnny, what's going on here?
Look, I mean, what are we talking about now? Because it's starting to get a little bit. It's obnoxious, isn't it, from Aston Villa? It's obnoxious. They're throwing their measly weight around, but you know, as a club, you can't stop another club bidding for your players. Like Barcelona, I mean, we might get onto them in a bit anyway for other reasons, but Barcelona couldn't stop Norwich City coming in with a £10 million bid for Messi. They can't stop that happening. But in general, you'd like to think the law of logic and the laws around big clubs and smaller clubs and people knowing their pecking order would stop this kind of thing happening. But, you know, if you want to look at it the other way, is this a sign of things to come? Are we now fair game for the middle pack now? The chasing pack behind us in previous years are now feeling like they might have caught up with us. They're on our coattails, and a club like Aston Villa, who are clearly showing ambition and are look more than capable in this Premier League, are in a situation now where they think they can come and rough us up and take one of our best players. This is not a fringe player. We've got many of them who you're welcome to if you want Villa. But Emile Smith Rowe has to be considered integral to any kind of successful look into the future for Arsenal. I think most fans would realistically look at Smith Rowe and think he's going to be there in the next 5 years, and hopefully we get to dream about what kind of player he's grown into. So obviously it's just disconcerting when you see this happening, even if it goes nowhere. But obviously, like you've mentioned last week, Pete, this might be something to do with players angling for a little bit of money when it comes to contracts negotiations, because he has come out, I've said that, or it's been reported that he's blown away by the interest from Aston Villa, which is not really what I want to hear, to be honest. I'd like him to say, I'm quite fucked off with the interest, to be honest, because I'm better than them. That would be a better way of handling a meal, but I get what you're doing, mate.
Yeah, it's absurd on every single level, because this is a Londoner. this is a kid who's got family ties, not family, literal family ties, but I think his dad is friends with Ian Wright. He's getting minutes. He's about to play in a massive stadium. He's got that London prestige. But third bid sounds like there's some sort of encouragement coming from somewhere. And I don't know where the story came from precisely, but there's a few stories rumbling. They're saying Arsenal have a price where they would sell. And I don't like that. And if I don't think there is anything worse than losing a young player after one season. I can't remember the last time Arsenal lost a really great young player so soon. It must have been Nicolas Anelka when he upped and left for Madrid. But he gave us more than half a season. And what I can't work out is what can Aston Villa offer that Arsenal can't. We finished higher than them in the table, marginally, but I'm sure that will be higher next season. I can't imagine that Villa can offer more money for him. They certainly can't offer more minutes. The problem at Arsenal was we were giving him too many minutes, and they're not going to be able to offer him a better lifestyle. Like I've worked in and around Birmingham in the past. It's lovely in areas, but it's no London. It doesn't come with that vibe. Like, who do you want to tell people you play for? The Arsenal or Aston Villa? It would be the most absurd move ever. But I tell you what, like, there aren't many things that make me think about rioting. There aren't many things that make me think about jumping on a plane and going back to Arsenal to cause problems outside the stadium. But I tell you what, I would get a banner. I would fly something over the stadium. I'd be absolutely fuming. And I genuinely think that would be an incredibly dangerous move for Arteta to sell a crown jewel, because football fans and young players is a thing. We love them, and to lose someone to a substandard club, I think it's a disgusting thought. I
mean, it's sad that we're even having to countenance the idea. Of course, we can't be selling Smith Rowe. I mean, the facts of the matter are, again, like you said, he's integral to our future plans. Any successful future, you would think, unless there is some dramatic turn of, circumstance, is going to involve Emile Smith Rowe quite as a centrepiece of what a new Arsenal would look like. And of course, the prestige of the club should supersede Aston Villa's draw. I mean, the fact is, the only thing I can see is that, the way that a Jack Grealish has come through and the style of play under... Well, Dean Smith's got them playing well, and they've got a really good crop of exciting talent. But you'd like to think with the likes of Saka, who is showing himself to be, for me, on the cusp of turning himself into a world-class talent. He's doing things on the international stage and looking like the best player on the pitch at regular intervals now. So really exciting. I don't think Emile Smith Rowe's going to go to Villa and play with dramatically improved players. We've got a more substantive squad, I should say. Easy for me to say. And so why would he want to leave on that front? When you talk about what it would mean for Arteta, and we're going to go a bit further into what the transfer incomings and outgoings are doing for any Arteta morale right now. We'll go further into that the more we look at some of the other transfers. But if he was to sell Emile Smith Rowe, unless it was Jack Grealish coming the other way and a nominal fee going with Smith Rowe, it would be case closed. It would be first day of the season. I don't really want to see this game play out anymore. I think everyone knows the guy's lost control, because any trust that even the most ardent Arteta fans must start to be waning a little bit because as far as I'm concerned, anyone who still believes in him, and I don't actually, I've got to hold my hands up there. I think any trust that they have would have to be conditional at this stage based off of last season's performance. It would have to be, of course, we had a really tough time. We had a bad one before Christmas, but after Christmas, if you take it in that juncture, which I'm opposed to doing, but still, if you do, it looks like a healthy, turnaround, as it were. But even those people who point to that must also say that we needed a good summer. We need a good summer to come out of it with any real optimism, because just a couple of players coming ins and outs and losing potentially a best player here and some of the other outgoings, no one could be looking at next season with any relish if that was to be the case. We desperately need to be upgrading our squad, and we need to minimise our outgoings when it comes to quality players leaving the club. We can't afford to lose any of them because we haven't got enough of the quality players in the first place.
But outside of that, it's a weak move. Summer is about perception in the eyes of the fans. Aston Villa taking out one of our best young players it gives off a bad perception. It will make things uncomfortable for Arteta in the stadium, and it will make us lose faith even further in Edu, if that's even possible. So I'm hoping that this is just Smith Rowe trying to ramp up that contract. And why wouldn't you? If you could go from a 70 grand a week offer to a 90 grand a week offer because you've got a little piece of paper that's got Aston Villa's contract offer on it, why wouldn't you do that? But I don't think this is a good move for his career. I don't think it's a good move for his taste. It's appalling taste to go from being a starter at Arsenal to go into Aston Villa. I just don't see the logic in it, and I'm hoping that the reason that he's using Aston Villa is it's not a threat. Chelsea's a threat. Liverpool is a threat. I mean, if he could even get a move to those clubs at the moment. So hopefully this will get resolved quickly, because I also don't want to come out of this summer and he hasn't signed a deal. Yeah, and we spend the whole year with the sort of Aaron Ramsey, Theo Walcott effect, where the first question that Arteta gets asked at every single press conference is he staying or is he going? It's too boring. We need to get this deal tied down. If we can get Flo Balogun to sign up for 5 years, I'm pretty sure that we can get Smith Rowe, who's already getting the minutes, to put his name to a long-term contract.
The other last final subtext to a potential, the significance of it being Aston Villa as well, is last season they got our best keeper for a very, very cheap price. And that would be, extremely bad PR for Arteta that he seems to be selling, not chump change players. These are significant players in our squad. Everyone knew that Martinez was our best. Well, most people did. That our best goalkeeper last year, and we're all like, okay, maybe someone knows something we don't. Well, no, actually, we knew best because he was excellent last year, and Leno was decent, but nowhere near as good as Martinez. So I think we all know we got the raw end of the deal with that one. So if we were to sell another seriously integral piece of our current playing squad, I don't think you can spin it. I don't see how you could find positive spin for it for a team that is very much on our coattails in the league.
Arsenal need to get some of that alpha bully billionaire spirit going. Don't let Aston Villa bully us. It's humiliating. It would be humiliating if it went through. You cannot stop clubs being interested in your players. You can stop other clubs buying your best players. And I think the Martinez reference is probably why they're so encouraged right now. So moving on to the next subject. Where are the signings?
Look at that.
Well, look at that, Cairo.
A bit of razzle-dazzle, guys. Welcome to the show.
Twitch is going wild. So the question that I keep on getting in the DMs is, where are the signings? Where are the signings? Where are the signings? Arsenal fans don't want excuses next season. I don't want to hear Mikel Arteta got all of his players at the end of the transfer window, and that's why we lost 13 games on the bounce. I want to see players in the squad early. I think we've got a game against Hibs next week. Still no players in the system. We're down to one goalkeeper. Is there cause for concern that there are no signings, or is it just a slow market? What do you think, Johnny?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm certainly going to be giving my opinion on this, but in so many ways, I've been excited to hear what your take on this is, because, I certainly came into this summer being like, alarm bells are more than ringing here. I thought he should have been sacked last year. And of course, this is not all on Arteta. I think if Arteta was out the door by Christmas, as I think there's a good chance he might be the way things are going, Edu certainly should be handcuffed to the guy. He needs to go straight out the door as well, because at any level of management right now, the lack of signings within Arsenal should be alarming. Like, surely there are people that understand that even if it's just down to the PR level, exactly the kind of things that you were mentioning, like fan morale, surely they must know that they've got to try and get business done early. And of course, you can't sign all your players on day one. We get that. But you can't be telling me, like you said, we've got our first pre-season friendly in a week. And who have we got? We've got some geezer who snogs a dog, and we don't even know if he got it over the line yet. That's, and he at best is a backup left back. Again, ain't got a problem largely with the signing outside of the weird video. But the simple facts of the matter are, where are the significant players? Because now we're starting to see significant players either be shown the door or, via loans, whatever you want to say, and going out for extremely cheap, disgraceful, derisory fees. And we're not being given a clear enough assurances that there's a plan in all this, that these people are being replaced adequately. I mean, I understand that sometimes when you are wanting to, we've done it in the past where you've got a number of players, but you don't want to show your hand almost in terms of how much you're willing to spend, the kinds of players you're bringing in, some of the players you're going out, because it may inflate the fee further down the line. But I mean, some of this is starting to get really, really, it's bizarre. We're going further and further into it. So far, from the general reports, people did believe different things, but ultimately this season has seen Buendia refuse us and go to Aston Villa. We've seen our backup goalkeeper, who shouldn't even get a game over Hackney Marshes, disgraceful, be tucked off to a Turkish team that I don't think there was a fee involved. Bad boys on loan. That's been continued for another series. Guendouzi out. I don't even want to call Saliba a bad boy because, weird videos aside, he deserves a chance. It's absolutely shocking, but we'll get
we
on
will
to
come
that
on
shortly.
to that. We'll come on to Saliba-gate.
But, right now, and I'll just end on this. Do you know when in some of those tough years under Wenger where we just weren't replacing players adequately, we weren't moving in the transfer market in an astute way or a strong way to justify in line with the profile of the club. And sometimes he used to go, oh, when I leave, I'll write a book and I'll tell you all of this, tell you all of what was going on. Part of it was because, you'd imagine that Wenger was like, if there was a hindrance to him signing things, he's like, you're knocking my legacy now. People are questioning me. And I bring that up to say this. Surely, if Arteta has any kind of basically, if he can self-appraise himself based off of last year and what he thinks fan sentiment will be, he must surely know he's got to get the fans on side with his performance. And this transfer window has been an absolute disaster up until this point. And surely he must feel that pressure to change things more than anyone, because of course it's going to reflect on him, as I think it should.
Yeah, there are a few factors that are going into a slow transfer window, I suspect. Firstly, the Euros makes it slow for everybody. Nobody's really moving in or out apart from a few massive signings. And generally, the pattern of a transfer window is a few big signings at the top start to filter down to other clubs, like the Hakimi signing at PSG. That's 80 million euros going in the pocket of Inter Milan. Inter Milan are rumoured to have agreed personal terms with Hector Bellerin for a loan, and potentially they're interested in signing William for a season. And I am game for that. So I think there are a couple of additional realities that we have to accept. Arsenal are not a club that knocks on the door now and you immediately sign up to, right? If you're Locatelli and Arsenal put 40 million on the table, but Juventus are waiting there, you're going to wait for Juventus. Ben White is rumoured to want to move to Arsenal, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to get him. But then Chelsea come knocking. That's an additional consideration. Chelsea, the European champions. Thomas Tuchel is an incredible manager that has proven himself time and time again. It makes things more complicated. I think one of the things that we used to do under Arsene Wenger that was deeply frustrating is there was a transfer target, and if we didn't get the transfer target, nothing else would happen. And my worry is that maybe Arsenal got a little bit caught up in that last season. Hosam Aouar didn't didn't drop until the end of the window, so we just didn't sign a creative player, and then we suffered tremendously in the first 3 months of the season. My hope is that, if Ben White doesn't happen, who's next? Move for them quickly. And if Ben White is dragging out longer than 2 weeks, then you've got to make a decision, because we can't roll with the centre-back situation that we've got at the moment into next season. Martin Ødegaard, I hope that we're not hanging on to see if Madrid change their mind at the end of the transfer window, because we've got a feeling if Ødegaard doesn't work out, who are you going to sign? And I think the Buendia transfer, I don't think it was because Buendia didn't want to come to Arsenal. I think because there was something obviously wrong with the fee or the structure of the deal or who was involved. But you've had plenty of time. And the thing that's frustrating, and I know that it's only media things, in a negotiation for a house, you say, I will offer 100,000 for that house. They say no. Say, I will offer 110,000. They say no. You go back again. You don't spend 3 weeks coming back with the third bid. Why does it take so long? And obviously it would be nice to have a technical director on this to explain how transfer negotiations work, but everything feels a little bit sluggish. But we cannot afford a sluggish season. We're going to lose most of our midfield. We've lost our best centre-back. We're potentially losing all three of our goalkeepers in one swoop. And a long pre-season is what's needed to bed people in, get them up to speed with the ideas, get them used to their new surroundings, get them used to living in a country like England post-pandemic. So I'm not massively concerned, but I do think part of the slowness is that we've driven our reputation into the ground a little bit over the last few years, and because we don't have European football, we're not a key consideration. We have to work a little bit harder to get signings.
Well, I kind of agree with that, but the issue is we potentially come to different conclusions, because I do think that our stock has fallen. There's no question it has in European football. Of course, we're not the same draw as we used to be, and that's partly due to our reduced level of playing staff. We've not got as good of players, so it's not like when you had Thierry Henry and it's like, anyone want to come and play with this geezer? Yeah, you do. You know what I mean? Now it's like, anyone want to kick a ball around with Willian? No, I don't think his son even wants to do that. The fact is he's players like that, they're not a draw on their own. And whether you or anyone else likes it or not, I don't think that Arteta is a draw as a coach. I think that everyone will know that his tenure at Arsenal is still up for debate. He's still up for grabs. I think a bad run could see him out the club. And, if we do go on a bad run, he absolutely will deserve the elbow. But the fact is when you talk about, someone like a Ben White, we've come in for him. Now, I didn't start this transfer window saying, we got to get Ben White. We got to get Ben White. I think I always thought he was a decent player, if unspectacular. Having heard about him as a potential target, I looked a bit further into him, and he does look like a good prospect. I think 50 million is over the odds for that, but ultimately, due to our stock falling, we are going to have to pay a little bit above a premium, because Brighton are looking at it going, hold up, you're not just going to put your transfer request in and Ben White's going to go on strike until he gets to Arsenal. Like, we're all in the same kind of pot now. This is the fact is if you want to throw your weight around as a bigger club, you have to do it with coin at this stage, because we can't do it with success. We can't unsettle him in the same way. But the fact that we take so long to get these bids done are the reason why Chelsea come in 4 weeks later as European champions going, oh, actually, we might have him because our original plan has not worked out. This lack of efficiency in the transfer market has hurt us it's a decade now at least. We've been doing this certainly into the Wenger era, where you would hear a target, whether everyone knew it before the transfer window started or our targets get revealed as we go, and we hear who we're after, and yet we just can't seem to get these deals over the line. Like, it's sometimes, and we know because of the shocking tales from the likes of Wenger, when it was a case of Xabi Alonso pay an extra £2 million and you can have him, and we can't do it. Some of our dealings with Suarez, even though I'm pleased we never got him in the end. The fact is that we move poorly in the transfer window, and a Pepe signing for 72 million, and this is not a review on how that's worked out, but in general, that aside, we always seem to be lazy to get our fees out. I mean, Aubameyang and Laka was considerable fees, and that got done. But in general, we seem to be so slow moving. And the other transfer targets, which I have a real issue with, not just the Ben Whites for considerable fees. You can talk about Ben White might be unsettled now by Chelsea interest, but what about Lokonga? Just go and get it done. If that's the geezer you want, he is not some, A1 European transfer target. All the big boys are coming in, clearly. Otherwise, we'd know about it by now. Why is that deal not done by now? It just seems to be so much indecision about almost everything we do. And the only things that seem to be decisive are where we're getting rid of our players, some of them who surely are worth, considerable or better fees than what we're getting, and they're just being ushered out the back door without a whimper. It's got to concern me at this stage, and it should concern everyone.
Right. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next topic. And I know that this is the hottest topic in the world that shouldn't be. We're going to talk about Saliba-gate again. Every week, a player that's never played a minute of competitive football for Arsenal, and we're talking about Saliba again, and people are getting upset, and it's going on and on and on. But David Ornstein came out earlier in the week and said Saliba is going on loan to Marseille. The internet erupted in floods of tears. Where are we on Saliba? Because the latest story today coming out of the French media, which has been absolutely diabolical on this, is that Sampaoli actually prefers a Brazilian defender who's 26 years old. He'd prefer to target experience. So the Marseille move might not be on. Johnny, let's top line. What do you think about Saliba and the latest rumblings this week?
It's an absolute disgrace. This situation is really, really doing something to me. I think there's going to be like a vein developing in my head that just starts like pulsating, because I am one of the guys who has the arguments on Twitter over Saliba, and I'm happy to have them, because I understand when people come at me with reasoned arguments for why they're not, not too worried. I do get it. It's not to say that I don't agree with these people, but if you can come up with a reasoned argument and not just be, you don't know what you're talking about, he weren't that impressive on loan and all of this nonsense. The fact is that I don't know how we can end up signing a player for that amount of money with, as far as I'm concerned, that level of that stealing. He has the potential to be a great player. I'm not saying he definitely will, but he has the potential. How we're moving like a club that have no defensive issues. That's how we're moving. If you can take someone in and not even give him a look, then you're basically saying we just don't need that. And better yet, we've snapped up Ben White and he's going to be playing. But you're talking about someone like a Rob Holding, and this isn't to detract away from the season Rob Holding's had, but we can improve on Rob Holding. Let's be very, very clear. Rob Holding was solid enough, and he will, Colossus on X-Men style, run through a wall for you. He will do that. But if you want to give the ball into his feet, you can definitely include on Rob Holding with a lot of players. I wouldn't say he's particularly proficient technically at all. And so, as I've said previously on the pod, when you're going to get rid of your best ball-playing centre-half, there is a hole there, a gaping hole. And the fact that we're not even getting a look at this guy, and people keep going, oh, what's wrong with putting him out on loan? If I was Saliba and I'm 20, and they're going, he's 20 years old, he's still got a couple of years. If you come in, your first thing, though prearranged, is to go out on loan. Then you come to your club, you're ready to roll, you've had some personal issues, you're feeling down, but you want to crack on at Arsenal. You basically get told by the manager, no, not good enough, getting left out of squads. Not even giving us left out when there's other geezers like Eddie and Nketiah and stuff still getting games. Like, what is wrong with you, Arteta? I don't get it, mate. And to go from getting left out of squads to be packed on loan again, okay, the geezer's getting nominated for French League Team of the Year. It's not that he will necessarily get into that. I haven't checked it recently, but he was nominated in 6 months. He can't have been that wank the way everyone's talking about it. He just can't have been. He simply can't be. So for me, I think he's done a minimum to have a look at him in pre-season. Hibernian next week. This guy needs game time. He's not going to struggle against Hibernian, but yet to see him ushered out the back door, I think he'd have every right to say, do you know what? I went to Arsenal. It didn't work out. There was a guy in charge who was throwing his weight around. He's not doling out the discipline equally. And quite frankly, I'm going to look for a move elsewhere because I don't see my future at Arsenal.
I think that he's in a good position, Saliba. I don't think that any manager in let's just look at the stats in the top 5 leagues in Europe. Only 4 defenders played more than 1,000 minutes last season, which is not a lot. And when you're 20 years old, minutes helps you build muscle memory. It helps you develop your game. And if you're out on loan, you can make your mistakes on another team's dime. So I think sending him out on loan versus letting him rot on the bench like an Eddie, like a Reece, makes sense. If we're going to call Arteta a rookie manager and he goes against the grain and puts a 20-year-old centre-back at the heart of our defence next season and it goes to shit, there will be no forgiveness in the system. Absolutely none. It would be a rookie mistake and it's his fault. He should have assessed talent better. So if we're going to send him out on loan and there's an opportunity for, instead of getting 500 minutes, like not even most teenagers get. Most teenagers don't get 500 minutes in Premier League teams, statistically anyway. I think only 10 did. Then send him out on loan so he can get 3,500 minutes. And then he's one of the most experienced young defenders. And then he comes back into a side next season and he can hit the ground running. The thing that absolutely baffles me is he's living in a comfort zone, right? He's gone back to France. He doesn't know the language. He doesn't know the culture of England. He hasn't played at the level that you need him to know whether he's any good. If Newcastle interested, Steve Bruce, good defender back in the day, Newcastle, an area that loves exciting, flair-driven footballers. They would absolutely love William Saliba. Go into a town where the football club is literally at the heart of it would be a massively great experience for him. Go to Southampton, play under Ralph Hasenhüttl. Fantastic manager, like extremely tactical, good, used to have a very good defensive record when he was in Germany. But to potter off back to France, what does that say about you as a player? What does that say about your ambition, your dedication? Like, one of the weaknesses in Saliba's game is that he lacks intensity as a defender. And one of Arsenal's defensive weaknesses is it's quite a passive defense. There's not a lot of pressure. I just don't understand. I mean, I understand that working under Sampaoli is a gift because he's a very technical manager. But in the French league, I mean, Nicolas Anelka just wrote a letter to Mbappe saying, basically, if you want to be the best, go and play for Madrid, go and play for Manchester City, go and play where it's competitive week in, week out. I can't understand why you just wouldn't take that opportunity. Go and have an adventure somewhere else. It's almost like Unai Emery's comfort blanket, but the football version.
So this is interesting because you're not the first person to come out with this kind of party line on Saliba. And my question is, why are we putting the onus on a 20-year-old who has moved to a new country, to a new club, and there was a new rookie manager in there who is essentially deciding his fate? And why are we, you're throwing around clubs there, Southampton's, Newcastle's and that, like they were all on the table. We know that, and he turned them all down. Like, we don't know that.
No, I know, Johnny. I step in there. So I don't have this 100%. I know that the way that Arsenal work is they create a list of clubs that you can go out on loan to, and I'm pretty sure that the reason that they do it is I think it's like a part of an HR thing. I don't think you can force a player to go and live in Newcastle. I think it's it's why swap deals rarely work. Because if a player doesn't want to go, they're not going to go. Like, you have to be comfortable with the club that you're going to. Yeah. So I think you give the player choice so that they can make the decision with their agent. So I don't think that that's Arsenal making a mistake. I think that's standard fare across Europe.
No, but what I mean is first of all, the inflection of what your point was that why would he choose to go to Marseille when he could have gone to the Prem? And that is an indictment on Saliba and his character. When in reality, for me, I think, if anything, it's an indictment on Arteta and the lack of plan that he has showed Saliba. The fact that he has sold him the dream that he is a part of the future of Arsenal, and this is why we need you to go on loan to Newcastle. This is where I want you. That maybe it's a 6-month loan because by the back end of the season, I'm going to need you. But the idea of a loan in general, when he's going back out to league, and again, we know he can play there. We know he does well there. He's getting better as well, as far as I can see. But it's not helping him being battle tested in the Premier League and English football. So I would have, even though I wouldn't like it, because considering David Luiz has left and he's our most technical defender, I just don't see where the confidence can come from that we have better options away from Saliba. So that would kind of bother me, but I would have more time for the loan option if he was moving within the Premier League. And outside of that, why is he not getting, we talk about we're out of more competitions. He couldn't even get in the Europa League squad last year, which was embarrassing when we're playing Dundalk and people like that. I mean, what's going on there? But surely he's playing the Carling Cup. We don't even know how much he's going to play at Marseille or at someone like that. So this just seems like this is a club issue rather than a player issue. It just all is so weird, the way that they're controlling and manipulating this situation. I think it just screams alarm bells for me with the handling of this situation.
It would scream alarm bells for me if the best clubs in Europe were sniffing out incompetence at Arsenal, right? The Aston Villa,
Emile Smith Rowe.
Aston Villa look like they're sniffing out incompetence at Arsenal, and they're like, "We will have this player off you because he's got 2 years left to go on his deal." It is telling that we're not having the same thing going on with William Saliba, and I genuinely think there is Arsenal fans correlate high price with high talent, and I think, as we've seen with Matteo Guendouzi, you can look at the £45 million that he was worth, or the £70 million that he was worth, but if the market says I don't agree, then that's the reality. And I think that if William Saliba was at the level where he could slip in to an Arsenal defence and hold his own, then the loan move wouldn't be Newcastle. Maybe it'd be Everton. Maybe it'd be West Ham for a season, but it's not. And if that's not the case, it doesn't mean that he's not going to get better. But the thing that just really grinds me is Joe Willock went to Newcastle and he's gone from being a £5 million player to potentially a £30 million player. He absolutely tore it up. It was a fantastic move. I don't understand why Saliba isn't like, I want a bit of what Joe's got. I'm going to get game time. I'm going to get a really good experience, and I'm going to live in a city that respects my talent. And also, just why his agents should be saying, William, if you are playing for Southampton or Newcastle and you're putting in performances like you did in your last loan move, the first question is going to be, are you going to bring Saliba back for Arteta? Because the British press are going to be all over you. But he hasn't. He's gone back to France, and no one's going to ask questions about Saliba next season because the English press won't give a shit. So I think that from a PR perspective, he's made a bad decision. I think from a career development perspective, it's an even worse decision. And I agree, we should have had him playing in the Europa League last season, but he's got the opportunity to change his future now. And I think he's putting himself in the wrong shop window.
Yeah, well, maybe he is, though. Maybe he's put, and that might be the wrong one for Arsenal, but maybe he's been treated in a way where he's like, do you know what? I'm not sure my future is going to be at the club anymore. And we, at times, at Arsenal, some Arsenal fans anyway, need to get over ourselves. Like, the idea that William Saliba's at Arsenal and he's got he's going to be devastated if it doesn't work. Like, he's probably already got over that because he's been treated really poorly as far as I'm concerned. And he's probably like, I'm a top player. I'm going to make it. Whether it ain't at Arsenal, I'll go back to France, do a couple of good years and get a big move elsewhere. But the fact is why this is such an issue. This is not like Saliba's had 25 games and he's not convinced anyone. And then, some fans like him, some don't. We've not seen the guy play. It's unacceptable. It doesn't matter whether he's at 27 million. It's not just about, whether he's worth that or not. It's a considerable fee because he's a considerable talent. Whether that means that he's a surefire success, it doesn't. I'm not even suggesting, but we can't possibly know that without giving him a chance. And I think it's just obscene that we don't get to see this guy play for Arsenal.
All right, that's some pretty strong words there. Some pretty strong words. The passion for William Saliba. I just hope that when he does come back to Arsenal, because I'm sure he will, I hope he's fucking good, because there's going to be a lot of disappointed people when he's bumming around our defense like peak Philippe Sinderos. I think we'll move on to the next topic, which was heated, but now is not heated. Matteo Guendouzi, the bad boy of French football, had 2 stand-up fights with Arteta in Dubai. I've heard from multiple sources that he is deeply unpleasant behind the scenes. And then he took the apology loan to Hertha Berlin, fucked that up. And now he's got an audience of 1 when it comes to clubs that want to buy him. And that club doesn't even have any money. So what do you make of the Matteo, the whole Matteo story? Like, what's your take on it, and what should he do to get himself back in the good graces of the Europeans elite?
See, the thing about Guendouzi is, I have more sympathy for Arsenal and Arteta, for that matter, around Guendouzi, because I do think he's a real talent. I do think that when he played well for us, you could see flashes of, a top quality player. I think, I'm not suggesting he ever got to that level or would get to that level, but he reminded me of a French Pirlo. Some of his range of passing is excellent. Oh, very much so.
Good move with him.
I think that when Guendouzi came in, he showed a bravery, technical proficiency. His range of passing was excellent. I thought he tackled well, certainly better than Xhaka. He was a little bit quicker than Xhaka, but then again, most people are.
Me and you are quicker than Xhaka. Let's be honest.
Exactly, after a sprained ankle. So that not too many flowers for that. But on the same note, I do think he is. But I'm willing to accept that there have been things that have gone on behind the scenes at Arsenal with regards to Guendouzi, and it may have got to the stage now. It would certainly seem like it has, where the position was untenable at the end of the day. Too much has gone on. There becomes a time at a club where there is just too much water under the bridge, and it's just no longer going to work out. Even when people say their apologies and, can we turn a corner? After a while, it's like, no, it's just not going to work. But what is causing me such ire around this situation is the lack of fee again. And I know your angle already, Pete, before you even say it. You're going to be like, well, it's the player's fault.
It's the market.
It's the market. They don't want to know. But other clubs don't move like we do. We get jacked. We are the kids getting rolled over for their lunch in the playground right now. Do you know what? We used to be a bit of a bully, or had the potential to. And then one day we maybe pushed a little kid, and that kid just swung a flailing arm out and knocked his spark out. Now all the other kids just don't respect us anymore. They're all putting their shots in. And they know that when players leave Arsenal, at the moment, it's not even for a fee. It's the way this deal is apparently structured is it's gross. It actually makes a bit of vomit come up. You're talking about a loan with a option to buy of a club with no money for a guy who I appreciate his value has gone down due to the way things have gone out, but 50, 60 million in that first year he came to us. He was playing for France. He'd broken through there. He was looking excellent for us, playing at different levels of European competition, Premier League. And for that to have changed in 3 months, 3 years, due to a row with Arteta, to the point where we can't even get a bag of chips for him. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. I'm not necessarily laying this at Arteta's door, by the way, but Edu, I mean, if there's a more damning indictment, you can't get cash for this man. What is going on? Shake some clubs. Do you know what? People talk about Raul Sanlehi, and yes, there was some shadiness going on, but Raul would have been... Yeah, there was a bit
some shade going on,
just a little.
Yeah,
he would have got the puppet master strings out, and some club would have been breaking their transfer record for him. Some fringe Turkish outfit or something like that. Have hobbled together £18 million or something, and we're taking it. Not deals where it's loans; they get options to buy. It's just it's crazy. It is so weird how we get had up for players leaving our club, and then when we want to buy someone and bring them into the club, we're paying top whack.
Yeah, my take on Guendouzi would be more: if no one wants to buy him, then you got to accept the worst bid in the room, right? You put something up on eBay, you can't complain that the world doesn't understand your amazing product if no one wants it. And I think that's Guendouzi had a soiled reputation before he came to Arsenal, and I think if you can't rein in your emotions under three managers, like Unai Emery had problems with Guendouzi as well, which is why he didn't buy him, despite the very public brown nosing that he did, the Guendouzi did of Emery. So I think it's just a case of the modern game does not tolerate dickheads. There aren't many Mario Balotellis in the world these days, and where money is limited, you've got to de-risk who you sign, and culture is important at football clubs. Matteo hasn't learned that. And I think the thing that really killed him, because sometimes you can just say, well, it's a clash of personality. I think going to Hertha Berlin and having a row with the best player coming out of the tunnel, diving in your own box, having the manager come out and say it's like having an animal training. I mean, you can't get worse coverage. You can't get worse coverage. So, but the thing that gets me is it's like, well, if Marseille can't afford him, then you don't get the right to buy him at the end of the season. If he has an amazing season at Marseille and they get into the Champions League, then why wouldn't he be worth more than Hossam Aouar? This is a centre midfielder, and despite me not being a massive fan of him, Guendouzi did play 33 games when we finished fifth. For like a 19-year-old, that's really impressive. So there are always opportunities to turn around, and if it's a little bit like the Mavropanos deal. If you can buy him for 10 million, but we're putting a 50% clause in his deal so that if he gets sold, we're going to make more money in the future, than I can understand. But at the moment, it just feels like we're just letting go of players, and anybody that knocks on the door can say, well, we got 2 million. How's that sound? And we just say, yeah, okay, we'll take it in.
Yeah, I mean, it's alarming. It is. And I do get what you're saying there, and if the deal is, if there's a massive uplift on any transfer deal with Guendouzi with that option, but I don't think it is from what I'm hearing. I think it's quite a small fee. Again, that might be misreported, but I think around 10 million I heard as a potential buy at the end of the year. And granted, it's going to take him off our wage bill for a year. But, you mentioned the eBay analogy. Sometimes you might have something you put up on eBay, right? Something that you're like, I'm not really using it anymore. I'll try and sell it. And then if it's something that means something to you or whatever, and you're thinking I'll get 50 quid for that, and all that comes in is a 50p bid, you might say, do you know what? I'm not even selling it. That's derisory. And I'm going to try and get some utility out of it again. And all I would say on Guendouzi is, yes, the bridges may be burned, as I said, but he has had a little child recently, and who knows? We know he has talent. I'm convinced he has talent. I think he's one of the best players that we have at the club that's out, trying to prove themselves at the moment. Certainly on paper, I'd see him as a more talented footballer than Joe Willock, for instance.
I agree.
But maybe that having becoming a dad. Having your career staring down the barrel, it might grow him up. And if you're going to end up with just such a nominal fee, then maybe it is worth Arteta giving him one more go. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, that loan for a 10 million uplift is not going anywhere. I'm sure you'll get it off someone because it's not very good.
Johnny, would you have Matteo Guendouzi on your How's Your Father podcast?
I'd love old Matteo to come on the How's Your Father podcast and take this as an invitation, Matteo. We know you listen to the Arsenal Opinion podcast. We know you're there, chomping at the bit to get involved. Come on the How's Your Father and make a plea to the powers that be at Arsenal, saying that you have turned the corner. Like, fatherhood has been a joyous kind of intervention in most of our lives for the good. You can sell that as your party line and hopefully get a future back at Arsenal. And
we have 71 people watching our Twitch right now, and I have done lots of that. Listen, first one, thank you for tuning into this. It's very exciting. It's hard to get people to watch live, so we appreciate your time. We're going to do questions at the end of the show, so if you want to drop some questions in there, we'll make sure that we answer them, because we're heading into our final topic now, because we're approaching the hour mark. Johnny, there's a goalkeeping crisis brewing at Arsenal. There is a goalkeeping crisis. Bernd Leno wants out. Nobody likes the goalkeeping coach. Matt Ryan has gone to Sociedad. Even Runarsson, the worst goalkeeper we've seen in an Arsenal jersey in 25 years, has fled to Turkey. We don't have any goalkeepers. Hibs is next week. What are you thinking about this one?
So I know you were suggesting that there's talk of Arthur Okonkwo being promoted.
Yep.
From currently the under 23 squad, I believe. So I can't say that I have a great knowledge of the guy.
Highly rated, apparently. Highly rated.
Highly rated. I'm not going to come here and say, disagree with people who might have more insight. In general, I've seen things that, like, I just saw a couple of minutes of highlights and I don't know, the jury's out. Maybe he's a really good keeper, but he doesn't necessarily have the frame and imposing style that maybe a Donnarumma did when he burst onto the scene at 17. And you think, wow, this guy's ready-made. He looks
he's
like
quite
a young
tall.
keeper.
He's a lot taller than Leno. I think he looks 6'4", 6'5". He's got Emi Martinez potential for size.
It's not just. Sorry, I maybe didn't make myself clear there. It's not just about his physicality, because he will grow. He's a young boy still, and he's still growing into his physique. But it's more about the assuredness when coming in and looking like a keeper. Like, even in the highlights, some of it looked a little bit like, at a lower level, because it is a lower level and he's a younger keeper. And when you talk about that guy coming into the Premier League next year in must-win games, I'm not sure we could countenance that idea when you've got Leno, who is the decent keeper. I like Leno. I think he's okay. I think he's good. I think we can improve on him. I think we had a better keeping option than him. But also you've got inbuilt in Leno certain rickets. In the same way that Xhaka and David Luiz and people like that have brain farts, around 4 times a year, Leno's going to score an own goal, punch it into his net, give away a penalty. He's going to do something weird. And, conversely, there are going to be some games where you can't beat him and he's going to get us the points, or a point at least. So, obviously, he's, as I say, a decent keeper. And I think Leno could absolutely get you over the line in a top 4 race. I'm not necessarily sure about winning a league. But you could not, in any good conscience, go into a season with a keeper like Leno, who, granted, we only saw it once last year, but got sent off at one point. And you imagine Arthur Okonkwo getting a little slap on the arse, going, "Go on, mate, 3 good games out of you." It's absolutely unacceptable. So we are going to have to get a more secure backup option, someone ideally with Premier League experience. We don't want to be paying over the odds for someone like a Matt Ryan. But also, we certainly shouldn't be breaking the bank for Aaron Ramsdale. I mean, absolutely not interested in that level of play. But again, I keep mentioning it. Areola at Fulham, who've gone down. He looked like an able keeper, and I don't think you'd have to break the bank for someone like that. Meslier looks excellent at Leeds as well, and he's young. I think they might, get a bit heavy on the price. I'm not sure we'd be able to get him. There's this guy at Aston Villa called Emi Martinez who's really pulling up trees. We might want to make an £80 million bid for him as well. But there are options out there, but I definitely think we're going to have to get involved in the transfer market.
Yeah, I'm going backwards and forwards as to whether I think that Bernd Leno leaving is a good or a bad thing, because it's kind of like with all the fires that you've got in the squad at the moment, if you can just get him a goalkeeping coach that he jibe's probably not the right word. I think that would be a priority, and then build out players behind him and maybe Bernd Leno goes next season. But also, Bernd Leno's a £35 million goalkeeper. If he's not going to sign a deal this summer, you've got to move him on. Like Raul Sanelli said, 2-3 years ago, if a player's got 2 years left on their deal and they don't sign on, then we sell them. So I would be more comfortable with the Ajax goalkeeper, Onana, than I would an Aaron Ramsdale, who looks like a huge risk. Sign a goalkeeper with Champions League experience that plays the way that Arsenal want to play. But I'm a little bit worried that position seems very unsettled. But at the same time, we do have to give Arsenal credit where credit is due. Runarsson was a bad goalkeeper. It was a huge mistake, and we moved him on. You make bad mistakes, and that's what happens in football. Move him on. But who suggested him? Who made the recommendation? I think that we should be thinking about that a little bit. So some concern in the goalkeeping area, but I do like that there will be a kid coming through as a third choice goalkeeper next season that's got some promise. And I hope that the backup goalkeeper is better than Matt Ryan, because Matt Ryan was solid, but I think that there was a reason that he lost his place as the Brighton number one.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I would also say that I like the Onana signing. I would be interested. But there does come an issue with that. I think I'm speaking factually about this, that the African Nations Cup will be next year and Onana will go to that, which would mean that we will have to turn to an enforced leave, where we will have to turn to our backup goalkeeper. And if it is Arthur Okonkwo, in January, February, like business end months, you know what I mean? Where those games away at Burnley start rolling up. No, that's not good planning. We're going to need something else. So I'll take Onana, but you're damn sure better have someone else coming in with him, and someone who's just able at least. When we talk about Runarsson, it's a great subject, Pete. I mean, I guess we are reaching the end, but it's a fun one, right? Because I put this out on Twitter this week. In terms of worst Arsenal signings, certainly of the modern era, I'm not sure Runarsson would take it per se, but I think he's up there. I think he's
not
top
far
five.
off. Not far off. Easily.
He was a kid in the sticks. And do you know what? What was so weird? He was the first time we had a keeper, and we've had some shocking keepers. Almunia at Arsenal. Oh my goodness! When Lucas Fabianski's turned his life around, clearly, because the one we had, Flappy Hansky,
They were shooting from corners. They were shooting from corners.
It was so unsettling, wasn't it?
So bad, yeah. I felt for him.
But when we had Runarsson come through the door, and people without ever seeing him play, Saliba Mark 1 maybe, but people are like, no, he can't ever get a game. They're like, seeing him in training, no, mate, can't get a game. It was mad. I've never heard that before.
I got instant leaks that they were like, he is atrocious. And again, Mikel Arteta, if there's a lesson you need to learn, if someone's that bad, don't play them, especially against Manchester City. Yeah. Shocking. All right, let's move into the final section, which is questions from our live stream on Twitch. Oh my word. We've got some good ones in here. I think I can show them on the screen. Talent-wise,
there we go.
Who has a higher ceiling, Saka, Smith Rowe, or Balogun? Johnny, I'll let you answer this one.
So I'm going to be straight in with Saka on this. Now, I understand some people. First of all, Balogun is still quite an unknown quantity. We just haven't seen enough of him. He needs to be playing top level football matches to get a real appraisal on what we think he might be, his ability. You just cannot translate anything we've seen at youth level at Arsenal into what his overall ceiling could be. Very rarely can you with a young player. Saka and ESR are now proven on a Premier League standard and a European standard for that matter. But I love what Emile Smith Rowe can bring with his exciting acceleration and his great technical proficiency. But if there was one reservation I have, he's going to have to start to score more goals. When you look at Saka, though, who also I think needs to score more goals, he has more of an ability to take control of a game. Even at England, big games the last couple of weeks, and he's just been the guy. But give it into my feet, I'll run past everyone, absolutely cause massive damage. And I think people around the country are starting to see what a talent this guy is. So for that reason, I'd absolutely say Saka has the highest ceiling out of anyone at Arsenal.
I love Smith Rowe deeply. I think that he's extremely exciting. I think he's modern. I think he is a bang player, and he's pure power and pace, energy. I think he has such a modern spin on his game. You can tell that he watches certain players, and I just love his focus. I love his swagger. I hope he stays. I know that there is a lot of hype about the potential of Flo Balogun as well. I think the club was very glad that they signed him to a deal, because there were a lot of clubs that were interested in him. And I think if he had gone to another league, I think we could have been looking at potentially a sort of Jadon Sancho-like return at some point. So I think all three are going to be exciting players. I hope that we get to see a bit of Balogun this season. I hope he doesn't go out on loan. I think he would be a really good third striker this season, because he has something that the other two don't have. He's got explosive power and pace, and he's almost the closest to Aguero that we've got in the team. I think he's comfortable with his back to goal. I think he can move the ball between the lines, and I think he's hungry. Some of those players, some players show up and that they believe they're at the level.
Yeah.
You saw it in Smith Rowe. You saw it in Saka. You didn't get it with Reece. You never felt that Reece truly believed that he belonged at the highest level. I think Balogun is a player that believes that he deserves to be at the very top, and I hope that he makes it.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. I'm just putting this next one up from Jungle John, because he said a nice thing. Pete and Johnny looking fire. Will the audio version still be available in the usual places? Absolutely. You can get it on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want it, that podcast will be. Next question is from Arsenal boy Adam. When is the madness of the transfer window arriving at Arsenal? Listen, all I can tell you is that Arsenal have money to spend this summer. It wasn't a sell to buy situation, kind of like it was until the very end last year. They want to go big. There's apology tour money. I don't know whether it will be James Maddison, but that ITK that called Thomas Partey called Maddison. So I wouldn't be surprised if we went big on a creator. And, it's clear that we're going to go big on Ben White. So expect there to be money spent this summer if there is the opportunity to do business. It's not a mistake.
Yeah. There are a couple of funny ones in it. And largely, we are quite open to banter, aren't we, Pete? I mean, it doesn't, as long as it's not getting wildly personal. But Azari in there has said that Pedro looks like a Britpop frontman. And I tell you what, mate, you could, like, if Damon Albarn was like sub, like, you could roll in, couldn't you? I reckon you could pull that off.
I'll take that. I mean, it does sort of say that I didn't grow out of the 2000s. Then maybe I need to update my look. What else we got in there? And
there's another one saying drinking game. Take a shot every time Johnny says something negative. Which, to be honest, this is, and there's other people saying I'm with you, Johnny. So this is the thing. I think what we're showing with the podcast and in general around the discussion is Arsenal fans there's a scale, isn't there? And different people are looking at the current situation. Some would call it a malaise with regards to our transfer window. Others would say it's the process. And, people are on at different levels of the scale. And I think that we are just two voices in the ocean, aren't we? And hopefully enough people, enough of what we say resonates with different people. But I don't think I'm being that negative. I actually think I'm being realistic. But there you go.
Listen, Johnny's got a bigger fan club in the Le Grove comments than I do these days. I'm going to be ousted. We've got a couple of questions about Lacazette from Callum. I'll put this one up from Scooby. Are we going to keep Laka or sell? If he's staying, surely he's getting a new contract. I think that Alex Lacazette would struggle to get 180,000 anywhere in Europe, and I think that he will likely see out the final year of his deal. I don't think there's any benefit in giving him another year. And I think that if there wasn't, I don't even know if there was an offer for him, whether we take it. I thought he was quite integral to certain games last season. And say what you want about Lacazette, he puts it in 100% every single time. And he's one of the players that changed their game to suit the new system. And when he was our best striker, let's be honest, Alex Lacazette was our best striker last season. And I think his experience might come in handy next season.
Yeah, concur.
And then the final one, Johnny, because you're so negative, I'm going to let you answer this one. What would be a disappointing summer window?
If the Premier League started tomorrow, right now we've certainly got a very disappointing one. And I think that the reality is we don't want to go too much over the Saliba thing. That's disappointed me already. So I'm going to need certain transfers to come in to lighten the load of pressure that I feel with regards to Arsenal. Remember, we've got a very tough start to the season, and we are going to have to do very well out of that start to the season. So Ben White, I've been charmed by. Again, don't really want to pay over the odds, but ultimately, we've just got to get it done now. I think it's ridiculous that it's taken so long. Lokonga, if that's the guy, from what I've seen of him, he looks like a decent player. Get him in, but get him in now. I mean, if you're trying to save 500,000, it's not worth it. I want this guy moving into Thomas Partey's house. I want them two to be best mates, okay? Everywhere he goes, handcuff them. So they're best mates. They love each other. They get matching tattoos to show that they're bonded for the rest of their lives. That's what I want. So in the first game of the season, there's no stranger football going on. We all know what page we're on, and we're hitting the ground running. It's one of the most important seasons of the last decade that we start well. And if we don't start well, we all know the way this season and the club and the manager is going to go. So I want a new striker in. If it's going to be Ben White, okay. I wouldn't let Saliba leave, but there we go. And I think we need, if Bellerin's going to be leaving, we definitely need a quality right back coming into the club. We 100% need a goalkeeper, to either be a Leno replacement or someone to be backup for Leno, and some kind of coverage on the wings with a good, quick ball carrier.
Well, that concludes the show. We'll put up the thanks, Chiron. Thank you. Yeah. If you were on Twitch and you were part of the first ever live podcast that we've done, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. If you're listening to this on iTunes, get in there and give us a 5-star rating and say something nice. For once, I've got no time for a 2-star or a 3-star. It's all about the 5-star. And on that note, Johnny, we're going to be back next Tuesday. We're probably going to do another Twitch stream because I think that this one went well today. Yeah. Honestly, thanks guys for everyone getting involved. At the end of the day, we're trying to get out so everyone can get involved in what we're doing and the discussion. And we do thank you guys for tuning in and getting involved. And hopefully there'll be even more bums on seats in the Twitch community next week. Yeah, and any feedback on the Twitch thing, let us know because we're very new to this and we'd really appreciate your insights. So, Johnny, I will see you next week. Thank you, everybody else, for listening. Ciao for now.